Recording in progress.
Okay, we're getting ready to go.
Okay, meeting of the order. Welcome all to the Mental Risk Commission. The date is Thursday, January 26th, 2023. We'll start out with a roll call.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Here.
Billy Smith.
Here.
John Buffington.
Here.
Margaret Branch.
Approve the agenda. Motion to approve it.
Vice Chair, if we could maybe just stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Oh, sorry.
Allegiance to the flag.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, approve the agenda. Everyone read the agenda, any changes? I would make a motion to table item A2. A2, that's one. Is that Trey Wood? Yes, sir. Okay. Second, Commissioner. Well, I got a motion and second. All in favor? We'll do roll call votes here.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Can I be excused? Yeah, you can. Can I go watch you guys on TV? Yeah, sure. Mr. Treadwell.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, just the motion to table item 8A, the presentation of the FY22 NMRC audit. It has not been made public, so it is not permitted to discuss that in public.
Okay. I need a motion on that. So moved. Okay, second. Second, Smith. All in favor? Roll call, I'm sorry.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Yeah.
Billy Smith.
Yeah.
John Buffington.
Yes. Make the motion to approve the agenda. Take that motion. Okay. Motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. We move on to approve the minutes. We want to read the minutes. Motion to approve the minutes. So move. And second that. Okay, got a motion and second. All in favor? Roll call vote.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Yeah.
Billy Smith.
Yeah.
John Buffington.
Okay, Commissioner's report. Let's go on to our executive director.
Eight. Good morning, Vice Chair, Commissioners, people in attendance here today. Thank you guys for coming in. Happy New Year's to everyone. Looking to start this year. Fresh and new was good stuff in New Mexico horse racing. But before we go there, I just want to mention the New Mexico racetrack family that has deceased over the winter break. Donnie French, an outrider, and a donkey, and a well-liked racetracker passed away right before the Summer Park race meets. The stall man, I believe his name's Lonnie Elam, passed away right before the summer meet. And we certainly want to let those people know that our thoughts and prayers are with their families. And we also have a young jockey that was injured at Summerlin Park. We certainly can't forget her. Want to keep our thoughts and prayers with her because she suffered from a serious spill on January 1st at Summerlin Park. So, yes, the latest word I got is she's been moved to Colorado to a facility over there. I see happen, but we just want to let her know that we learned things about her from what we've gotten, and her life online every time she goes out there and rides fearlessly. So it's the underside of the industry. Unfortunately, accidents happen, and but we certainly just want to let her know that we're thinking about her. She's not forgotten. But that being said, in a busy holiday, we traveled to Tucson, Arizona for this global symposium on racing, and it was a really good event this year. Our applause to the University of Arizona Racetrack Industry Program for putting on a great agenda for us. But one of the biggest things that I took home is technology that's advancing in the horse racing industry as far as the animal welfare goes. And there's been a test pilot in New York, and it's going to be implemented in Tucson as well, where they're putting sensors in the horse's saddle cloths. They weigh about 3 ounces. And what it does is it gauges the horse's gait symmetry as they travel. And when the horse is racing or working out, and it will measure acceleration in 3 directions. They'll measure the concussion on the front limbs and the hind limbs, and it will determine the horse's gait as being normal, or give you a red alert rating, which is not good, or a yellow caution rating when it detects significant change in the normal gait of each individual horse.
Is that for government control?
It'll be both 3 together. So this will be it's very, very innovative technology. It's not in its final stages, so it's still in its testing stages. But they did it in New York, over 6,000 starts up there at Naira Racetrack. There were 20 catastrophic injuries, and 18 of those horses that suffered on the racetrack had a red rating in their final race. One had a yellow rating, one had a green rating. So what you need to determine if something is pretty good is long-term data to see if it's going to consistently pick up the red alerts on these horses' gaits. As I mentioned, it's not perfected yet, but you got to figure out how to adjust for variation, because as we all know, during the race, a horse a jockey may check him in a short stride, or he may get bumped and knock him off stride. It'll change his gait. So they've got to factor in those realistic variables into this technology. So it's a work in progress, but they're going to be utilizing it down in Tucson at Reno Park this winter for their little race meets they have there. So I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to take a trip down there to speak with it and see it and watch how it works.
We go to modern trainer or
there's another piece that they haven't perfected. I think it could be utilized by a regulator, veterinarians, but right now, in those jurisdictions in New York, they're not scratching horses based on it because it is under study. But I think private vets can have access to it to tell the trainer, hey, listen, this horse, he's not traveling normal. It'll pick up on some stuff that the naked eye probably won't pick up on. Workmen can use it. They have access to it. They can determine whether they should really send that horse out to work in the morning or out to race that day. And obviously regulators can use it to determine whether perhaps we need to scratch a horse or advise someone to scratch a horse that probably shouldn't run. But the cost of it is $35 per start. That's what they're thinking. Unfortunately, it's an additional cost to an already burdened industry that the owners always feel the pinch. But it's something that
$35 the spring they want to do the spring
and working out. Yeah, so if your horse goes to attack 4 days out of the 7 in a week, it costly. So, like I said, not perfected, but it's something that's out there, and we saw some examples there at the symposium. But it's certainly some technology to keep our eye on. If it's going to help the horse, we want to keep track of this technology to see if it can be here in Mexico one day. We'll wait for that day to come. Other technology is 180-degree cameras around the whole track, facial recognition for horses. Similar to this, it's going to compile data on every horse's stride, gait, and wheel, and just compile data on each individual horse. And then we will see when there's alerts where that horse is provider gate is changing, the volume of ride and it can work out, showing in potential infirmities. So, but they're all working on it. I applaud them for trying, and we'll see if it comes out. But like I said, I think I'd like to go down to the fund to see how effective it may be, but it's on a trial basis. I mean, I emphasize that. And during that December, part of the inspected facility, as usual, they're race ready. Actually, we went down there with Highwoo as well, and they were very complimentary of the testing facility. It's very adequate, has a lot of space, has an area in the back. So claim horses, they have to go to ISA rule to cool out in the back area for the vet to determine whether there's anything in the horse or not, and that'll dictate whether the horse's claim is or the claim is void on those horses. We continue to get inquiries from the Animal Protection of New Mexico about horses dying at our racetracks. As an industry, I'd say we need to play a major role in enhancing the animal welfare on our racetracks. It should actually be at the forefront of everyone in our industry minds. Everyone must do their part. Some trainers not pushing their horses to race when they should not. Racing secretaries very high penalties on overraced horses or poor performers. Regulatory vets scrapping horses that do not pass the pre-race inspection. Private vets administering medication to horses that need time and rest, rather than medication to get one more race out of the horse. And jockeys refusing to ride horses that have noticeable infirmities. The NMRC has concerns about a recent catastrophic race. Although it's orbit, we had a very respectful year last year. Over the last 2 years in 2021, catastrophic rate was 1 for 1,000 starters, which is well below the national average. 2022 was 1.2, which again is well below the national average. Unfortunately, the catastrophic rate was 1.9 per 1,000 starters. That's significantly higher than the national average. And in 2021, it was 1.4 per 1,000 starters, which is right about the national average. But nonetheless, it's something that as regulators and people love horse racing, always need to stay on top of this stuff and be well versed in how we can explain to the public how things work in the industry. They're just like athletes, and unfortunately, there's injuries that are sustained throughout the country in any given race day. But I just want to let the commissioners know that this agency will continue to try to be as innovative as possible, try to enhance the welfare of the animal and forms out there for the public. I stand for any questions.
I got a question. Since off the subject, how was your reception? Do you feel for Santa Fe this last 2 days?
Well, that's something I wanted. It says limited to 5 minutes, so I didn't want to keep going. I didn't want to throw it. But yeah, we actually have a good time in Santa Fe. Typically, our trips up there sometimes are a little rough, but I think the legislature get it. They realize that we have limited sources of funding. A budget of only $2.4 million a year, minus the Equine Test Fund and other funding that they want us to get. But I think the very welcoming. What we heard as far as them wanting to have further discussions on increasing our budget. Our focus up there as well as it was today was on animal welfare. They realized that the more horses die on our racetracks, the worse off this industry is going to be, and potentially following the lead of the dog racing industry. So there's going to be some good discussions that are going to go on up there. And there were good discussions in front of us that went on that I think they come to realize that this agency needs some help in order for us to do a better job. I mentioned to them, I think we've got our glass ceiling here with what our budget can do for us and our testing and so forth. If they want the New Mexico Racing Commission to get better and implement the programs that we've had on the books for the last 4 years, we're going to need some help. So the discussions the last 2 days in Santa Fe were really refreshing. I think they get it. And now we'll just wait and see.
Well, the previous, the 4 years that I've been on the commission, go up there and we were like a dartboard. I think that the reception that they gave me was really, really good. I feel really good about getting what we need.
It was very refreshing. We did take some loaded questions, difficult questions that are flying around, and people get to these legislatures, and there are a lot of half truths. That's how it works sometimes up there. But we're always prepared. It's no harm, no foul, no blood drawn. So I'd like to say the cakewalk this year.
Yeah, what I saw that in Bloom, and what I liked, they kept on bringing the subject of testing, which is really that's one thing we cannot slack on is the testing, because once we saw one, there's 3 or 4 coming at you again. So testing is a never-ending thing, and I think if they could really help us out on that some other way, that would really help us.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, if I may, there was some good dialogue about this and the testing as well. I think the state should be proud of the testing program that we have. The direction that High Rule is going is pretty much the road that we've already been down. I think that's a compliment to what this agency's done over the last handful of years in trying to combat illegal administration of illicit drugs in our animals.
And one thing I got was they asked what happens if the horse is saying, what are they giving them? And you explain that to them very, very well, that they're really surprised, that they're doing this. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Whoa. Like they had no idea how this was being done, and that was you put that very well, but they got it.
Well, I appreciate that, Vice Chair. I'm always hesitant to air our dirty laundry in public, but people need to know the truth.
Yes.
I stand for any more questions.
Okay, let's move on to conventional court readers. There she is.
I'm Mary Barber, New Mexico Horse Breeders. I'd like to go over my final reports for Zia Park.
Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. Okay, Zia Park ran 48 days and they ran 184 New Mexico bred races. Of those, there were 94 thoroughbred overnights, 62 quarter horse overnights, 11 quarter horse trials, 9 thoroughbred stakes, 8 quarter horse stakes, and our total contribution was $1,871. And that is $592,500 more than was contributed in 2021. They ran an average of 3.84 New Mexico bred races per day. There was 103 thoroughbred and 81 quarter horses, and they were +4 for the 3-a-day requirement. For their average field size for New Mexico bred overnight races, for thoroughbreds, it was 7.51. For quarter horses, 8.58. And for a combined average field size of 8.07. For my report on New Mexico breds running in open overnight races in their 48 days, 793 New Mexico breds ran in open overnight races. Of those, 234 came in first, second, or third, and that's 29.5%. 112 were thoroughbreds and 122 were quarter horses. Our contribution to the purses for these New Mexico breds was $262,998.50. And that's all I have to report.
Very good. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to let's say I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
I move that the commission enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation and licensing matters as identified under item number 7 of the meeting agenda in accordance with NMRC 19 sections 10-15-1 H1 and 7 of the Open Meeting Act.
We're, got motion, second. Roll call.
David Hossie Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
But well, now, second session, shorter.
Now, how long will we be in executive session?
Gave us 45 minutes, but I'm not sure that we're going to need that entire meeting.
But part of it's gone. Yeah, so it shouldn't be that long now. The recorder up here.
Recording stopped.
It's in the phone. Let's get it.
You fell asleep over there. No sleeping allowed. Sleeping back there, like, you get up to read it. I said, no sleeping allowed.
That's the one from somewhere. Yeah, that's good. You're fireball, right, boy. Trying to sleep on. Okay, back in. The commission is back in open session. The time is 10:26. Let the record show that the only matters discussed in executive session are continuing litigation and the licensing matter as identified under item number 7 of the meeting agenda. In accordance with NMRC 1978 section 10-15-1 H1 and 7 of the Open Meeting Act. We're now back in open session. Want to make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to move H to the top of the agenda. So H to the top of the agenda to allow some folks to catch up, find out. Here's second. Second. Motion second. Roll call.
David Hossie Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Okay. The approvals for Riddles of Down.
Give me 1 second, Commissioners.
Just go back to the update first. Okay, with that. Property update, yes. Thank you. We'll do one at a time, okay? That makes it a lot easier for our minutes.
Turn on the screen, Commissioner, to be a presentation.
Can you see it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, on the screen in front of you is a brief presentation we did for what is claimed as our 2023 improvements to the property. Everything you'll see is currently in the design and permitting phase. And given the scale of the project, we're all slated to be done by May of 2023 prior to the Memorial Day opening of the race meet. So in the square here, you'll notice this is the actual blackout zone. Everything that is black is deemed not in scope of work. So our focus this year for the 2023 race meet is solely improvements to the racing product, which is really about guest experience, trackside seating, and everything that really makes Rito so special. So this box that you see on the most southern portion of the picture is actually the current sports bar. In December of 2022, we closed the current sports bar, and it is undergoing renovation as we speak. We've got architects and engineers currently working in this room. Back in the day, probably, and Rick might tell me differently, but it's about 10 years ago, there used to be a patio on the sports bar, and it used to be a buffet. It was the most popular seat at the racetrack, but unfortunately, it didn't operate the way they wanted to, so they closed it, and they built a big wall in a sports bar. So if you sit in sports bars, you can't see the racetrack. What we've decided is that we're going to turn this indoor restaurant into a full-service trackside dining experience. So the wall that separates the sports bar from the racetrack has been removed and will be floor-to-ceiling glass. So now you can be in a weather-proof environment. The racing announcements and TVs will all play inside the restaurant, which you can be able to actively walk out onto what is now a new 5,500 square foot trackside dining experience. So we doubled the size of the sports bar. And this used to be where the human ambulances were parked. This has now become basically a 5,000 foot covered patio. The number one complaint we get is in any of our customers. We don't have enough seats because we have more than of our seats than we have available seats, and they want to cover. They don't want to be in the rain. So Ruidoso is either beautiful and sunny or beautiful and rainy. And the problem is 33% of our seats don't have cover. So what we've done is add an additional 222 seats under cover right next to the quarterworks rail. So basically there's enough distance to drive a truck between the patio and the new outside rail, but it is that close. So it'll be basically the newest seats in the property and some of the nicest seats in the property. And again, we've listened to the customers and we put a roof on. So they should be able to do in there in inclement weather, whether it's warm or cold. If you want to go to the next page, I would give them. So the sports bar will be turned into a basically trackside. So there's, in the last 10 years, basically no new restaurants in Ruidoso. So this will be the newest and the most modern Mexican cantina in Ruidoso. And in the back of the picture, you can see floor-to-ceiling glass windows. That is the track area on the southern portion of this restaurant. This restaurant will seat 175 people. They'll have state-of-the-art mutual lines, everything that we need to make it a good experience for the guests. If you want to go to the next one. This is just more detail as to how we're going to update and modernize that experience. And the next picture. This is actually on the patio facing back into the restaurant. So as you can see, if you're on the patio, you can see straight through the glass windows. But if you're on the other side, you can see straight out. This patio, again, is the newest location, 222 seats under cover. If you want to go to the next one. So now, if you're on the patio, this is the view looking out to the racing surface. So you're directly across from the paddock and about 100 yards down from morning workouts. So what we've designed this to be is the number one location for anybody who comes in Ruidoso, whether you're an owner, a trainer, or a tourist, to come out every morning, participate in brunch or breakfast trackside while the horses do work from the morning during morning works. So again, the morning works will happen right here, and this will be a full service restaurant that will open about between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to come out with an owner and show them what he does, they do the works, we've got a brand new perfect trackside restaurant for you. So our hope is this will become the number one breakfast location, one of our top performers for our guests during live racing, and immediately following live racing, call it 5 o'clock when the last horse clears, this will become basically a Latin nightclub. Mariachi bands and live Hispanic bands will play here immediately following racing. And this restaurant will operate as an indoor-outdoor club until midnight on the weekends. So the intent here is to really try to capture the tourists and give them a good experience while they're here during racing. And then immediately following the close of racing, turn into an entertainment destination and really showcase the track and its views of the mountains in Ruidoso. And that is location one. Location two is section A, B, and C, the grandstands, which really means the outside winner circle area where the tunnel goes underneath the racetrack. From the tunnel over to the cantina is a second brand new restaurant. We're referring to it now as a trackside beer garden. So now we've created two distinct restaurant concepts. This one seats 564. So between the two new outlets, we've created basically 800 new trackside seats. This too is a full service restaurant. So Section A, B, and C are grandstand seats. You guys are probably referred to as bleachers today. Those bleachers have been completely removed, and the concrete build-up structure has been reduced down to apron level. The apron will now be flat from the tunnel all the way to the cantina. And what that allows us to do is put a cover over these seats as well. So these seats, without impacting any of the view of the grandstands, will now create a second undercover full-service restaurant on the quarter horse track.
I've got a question. Sure. All these seats are they open in public, or do you have to have reservations, or are you going to sell them to the public?
So here's the truth. Renoso is very, very fortunate with its season seat program and our daily sales program that we actually have more demand than we have supply. And so what we're trying to do is create pockets for each group of people who have specific interests. So our turf club crew is different than our grandstands crew. It's different than the jockey club crew. So what we're trying to do is offer unique experiences for different groups of people. So this is a trackside beer garden, which will offer like bratwurst and pretzels and fondue and things like that, and craft beer. This location will be pozole, menudo, things like that, martinis and tequilas. And from the tunnel towards the finish line, will stay in its current status, which is free apron access, affordable seating in the bleachers, but none of that to date will be undercover. So as we heard from our customers, they're happy for full service restaurants. We're just trying to give them access to full cover. So in the short window that we had to produce it, we were able to keep affordable seating on the western portion, but we're starting to offer more unique dining experiences trackside with these others.
I'm sure these will be daily sales. They will not be season.
Yeah, there will be seasons. That would pretty much.
The number one complaint is that just like any baseball stadium, and this is the reference I use all the time, you go to a baseball stadium and it's happened, and the announcement comes on the board and they say, we'd like to announce that this is a record crowd of 16,000 people. And you look around, there's nobody there. The truth is, they're corporate seats, they're season seats, and things like that. And then there's a number of people who can't get into a stadium because there's no seats to sell. So what we've decided to do is not allow any season seats to these and make them for basically the tourists who come in every weekend to participate racing. This will be basically new full service dining experiences focused on the daily visitor, not the season seat holders. And there's more information for the season seat holders that I think they'll appreciate as well. But this is, again, 560 seats. The other thing I think the customers will like, the turf club and the grandstands are all 4 top, 6 top, or 8 top seats. The number one complaint we get from our customers is, I don't want to pay for a 4 top table if there's 2 of us. And the business model just doesn't allow you to diversify from that. So both this restaurant and the cantina, heavy 2 tops. So anybody who comes, the price point gets reduced drastically. But a 2 can easily become a 4 or a 6 or an 8. So I can easily accommodate large parties. But we've been able to change this restaurant to allow for much smaller groups, families, and things like that. Both of these restaurants, I will note, are open to the public and are not bars. So they're family-friendly, good environments, trackside. We can go on with pictures for you. So from an FF&E standpoint, we're still working on the final design, but now you get to look of, so the box seats are behind you. So we're backed up to the box seats. This is the view from the apron looking out across the paddock and the jock's quarters. It's basically your vantage point from where we're seated now. And as you can see, there's a roof line on top, which again allows us to listen to our customers and continue to build more undercover seating. Again, this is full service, so you can sit out. You never have to go to the grandstand anymore. We'll have mutual lines potentially out here as well. And the real thing is, many of the complaints we get is the grandstands are too busy. I don't want to wait in line in the concession stands. Mutual lines are too long because there's simply too many people to make the business flow well. So we've taken a majority of the people who are down in the grandstands causing congestion and moved them down to the winner circle, and we put a lot of people in the canteen, which takes 1,000 people out of the grandstand, which reduces a lot of congestion and should make the operation and mutual lines and food and beverage work in a much smoother fashion. This is from the cantina looking towards the winner circle. So now you can see the roof lines, the trackside dining, and the full service restaurant. And again, all of this is available for reservation prior to your visit as a tourist who comes in, but again, not for a season access. And this is from the outside rail looking back into the box seats. And so again, full service restaurants, full service bars, everything is state of the art and will be completed in the next.
You have a table set aside for the commission.
That's the nice part about all of this is.
In the backside.
In the best.
But what we're trying to offer is, because a lot of times when you go to a new city, you want to take in new restaurants every time you go. And so what we're really trying to develop is for the people that come 2 times a year or on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday. Saturday you can come and enjoy an afternoon in the beer garden. Sunday you can come out and have brunch at Bloody Mary's and mimosas at the canteen, and it gives you a different flair and a different look at Ruidoso every time you come. In addition to this is the last of the presentation, but for those that aren't coming to the canteen and the beer garden, every concession stand, we have 8 of them now, have been redesigned, rebranded. For those of you who have been at Ruidoso, the market's shifting dramatically. So we're changing all of our offerings, making everything broader to talk to a broader audience, because we've been very much a hamburger and French fry location. I think you'll see this year that we've got new chefs on full staff. We're going to offer salads and a variety of things and really try to target what people are asking for. We're trying to do our best to listen to what the customers are asking for and provide that. So this is just the first step of that. So we're excited for the 2023 race meet. My phone's been blown up all day as construction has begun. The grandstands are already renovated. But I would guess as early as the first week of February, full interior designs will go in this order and we'll be ready by late April. They're saying they're going to hand us the keys to the restaurant.
How many additional employees are you anticipating?
So there's a key to this. So this will require an extra 80 people between the 2 locations, but these are all on the food and beverage side. The fact that these are full service restaurants allow us to take advantage of New Mexico law, which means you can use an 18, 19, or 20-year-old. This property has never hired an 18, 19, or 20-year-old because concession stands are considered a short order service. An 18, 19, and 20-year-old cannot work there. As a full service restaurant, you are allowed to hire an 18, 19, and 20-year-old, which is why both of these new locations are full service restaurants and will be permitted as such, which allows us to have a much broader hiring audience. And we should have no problem from an employment standpoint. Well, and we actually called all the vendors, food, beverage, and everybody and told them we expect large-scale changes in our purchasing habits for 2023. And the vendors from New Mexico have stepped up and have been in our office once a week saying they're very supportive. We expect for a good week in 2023.
And then off-season or when you're not running, I assume those kind of.
So this particular, the beer garden will become potentially, we're looking at all the math on it now, one of the top off-season banquet locations. So if you want to have cocktail party, let's say you're getting married at the Elegante downtown. If you want to come here and have a party for 50 or 150, this is scalable. So we have it built so we can have section A, B, and C of the beer garden. So if you want a party for 300, we can accommodate that. If you want 100, 150, 200, we can accommodate that as well. The cantina, the floor-to-ceiling glass, we're still working on the engineering of whether we want to open the glass or not and make it a true indoor-outdoor facility. But that also is built to be room A and room B. If somebody wants to reserve the patio outside for private parties, they can absolutely do it. If we, as the racetrack, want to host private parties on the outside, we can without interrupting any of the business model inside the cantina. And the nice thing about the cantina is that you close the glass, it becomes a year-round Mexican restaurant at Ruidoso. So it's built to be a 24/7, 365 operation that will scale up during racing and scale down in inclement weather.
What is all this cost?
So
Approximately.
it'll be a few $1 million when we're all said and done. By May, and then there's larger scale, what is the 2-year, 5-year plan that's ongoing. So we're going to run the 2023 race meet and really digest how this works and customers' reactions. But we do have plans for what additional investment and what that plan might look like in subsequent years.
Do you think it'll increase your casino somewhat?
I think that if we really target the tourists in Ruidoso and convince them, the fun fact that disturbs me from time to time is Ruidoso is a model built to close at 5 o'clock. You run races till 5 and everybody goes back to the Airbnb or they go to Midtown. That model doesn't even have lights in the parking lot. I mean, this building is built to close at 5. It never took the casino into a nightlife thought process. What we're really trying to do is show people when you come for the racing, it is great. It's a great product. But in addition to that, we're an entertainment destination. And you can stay after 5 o'clock if we produce good food, if we put on good music. And the casino is just part of that. We are spending $0 on the casino. What we're trying to do is diversify our business and make it stable and take advantage of the tourists who come in the summer. When they come in the summer, if we put on a good show, we really feel that they'll migrate to us and spend their money at our racetrack, which strengthens everything we've got. If they walk into the casino, it's icing on the cake. But this business model is a standalone without any improvements to the casino. Of course, if the casino grows, it means more money for us and more money per person. So we'd like to see it happen, but none of that is necessary for this to make business sense for us. But we're excited. We think the customers will really like the new and modern changes and the access to trackside. Because a lot of times it's hard to get a good dining experience and still get the energy of being trackside. Our hopes with this is you get the best of both worlds. Full service restaurant and 5 feet away from the outside rail.
It's easy access to it.
Oh, 100%. The balance of the property is shifting towards the casino. And I think you're going to see a new, hipper audience that really likes racing will also migrate into the casino environment.
Sir, hopes. I mean, right as you walk in the front door, you know, past the casino. Well, the ladies get bored and they want to go to the casino, but if they're way up there, different story. If they're, well, I think it'll run a lot. You should easily 15% plus. And then with the marketing program that will send out this as well with the players reward. And you have to win those customers over to you. And sure, that's something that I've spoke with Mr. Ryan. A lot of things that we believe is damage control. We got to correct the damage.
Well, I think, and the other thing that we're doing in addition to this is we're in the process of signing contracts. Last year, we did 4 concerts at Ritos over the summer. This year, we're slated for 28. And so the 28 concerts are really a balance of different demographics, young, middle, old, Hispanic, Tejano, Cumbia, like a blend of what our audience is. I think in the past, we've been the quarter horse track that runs till 5 o'clock, and we didn't pay a whole lot of attention to who's actually coming. We spent the last 2 years digesting who's coming, what are their purchase habits, what makes them happy, and the business model you're going to see us roll out is the answer to that. What are they looking for? They're looking for better food. They're looking for more entertainment. The number one question I get at Ritoso every day is, where do we go now? They want to be out. They want to enjoy Ritoso. They're all there to have fun. My belief is we didn't do a real good job listening to them. And now that we've listened to them, we're going to give a product that we think they'll migrate towards and hopefully leads to a lot of success for the racetrack.
I love the diversification that you've done with the Hispanic, because let's face it, the quarter horse industry is big populations from Mexico, deep into Mexico.
True. Our concerts last year, we did 4 what you would consider like Red Dirt Road country acts. Yeah. This year, we're slated for 28 shows. 60% of them will be Hispanic in nature, whether it's regional Mexican, Selena tribute type stuff. We're really going to try to spend our marketing dollars and our thought process targeted toward the market that is there. And so that doesn't mean we're going to wholly change what Ritoso is, but we're going to talk to those people who are there. We're going to have a lot of country shows. We're going to have a lot of regional Mexican shows. And we're going to do more than we did last year, and we think it'll be really successful. So we're excited.
And we're going to get this presentation out on our Facebook, and we're not going to geo events, just our area. We're going to take this out post to post. We'll get this out on States and like we've done the geo for social media. It looks great, man. Good. Very nice. Very good. Well, it turns out like that be pretty darn good. Okay, let's move on to H2. Very well. With Reno Sound Racetrack Commissioner, at this time, we'd like to request approval. Filling in the regulation license application to dedicate Mr. John Crowder as well along with you. We discussed that during closed session. And John,
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
We've got a motion in a second. Who goes?
Roll call vote.
David Hussey Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. We voted on four, or one and only. Okay.
Chairman, this time to do those down to request approval of our first agreement. When we those down to be a part as we review during the executive session on last presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion second.
David Hussey Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this time, H4, we those down to request approval of our 2023 first visit. I would like to add two things. I would like to thank Mary Barber for working with Jamie and I to enhance the New Mexico Bread Purse Fund, to review the purse schedule with Jamie. Mary did an excellent job, and we really appreciate it. And also, I would like to point out typo that I got dyslexic on. I made special rate made in 25 claim that should be reversed.
Okay.
With that, we request approval of our first schedule last month.
Motion, I would make the motion to approve the first schedule.
Second. We got a motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hussey Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
Thank you, Johnny, for coming up.
Thank you. You're gonna have to move your son. Okay.
That's what I want to. At least buy a place and we know the guy. How do you own the whole town?
Already had.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, you did. I guess you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to, the park.
Going back to B.
Vice Chair, is it okay that we be back?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let's go down. It's gonna leave.
Vice Chair,
You table A. Let's go to B, I'm sorry.
Vice Chair Sanchez, Honorable Commissioner. In your materials, you will find the open meetings resolution for 2023. Again, this is an annual review and approval. Essentially, the open meeting resolution was reviewed internally, as well as by our AAG, the Salazar here today. And essentially, you have it there. All of the provisions in the law were reviewed, and they are correct. And I stand for questions, and I believe AG Salazar will also give questions.
Any questions? AG?
Mr. Vice Chair and members of the commission, if I could just speak a little bit more about the Open Meetings Act resolution. So this is something that's required that public bodies adopt annually. So I'm sure you're probably familiar with seeing this very often. But what your current resolution states is that you'll provide 10 days advance written notice of any regular meeting, 3 days advance notice of any special meeting, and 24 hours advance notice of an emergency. And it also talks about what's required of the notice. To conform with the Open Meetings Act, a notice also has to include an agenda, which can't be amended by law within the 72 hours prior to a meeting. You can, however, add a meeting table items, like what you did today, or change the order of items, but you just can't add a new item to the agenda at that time.
We can do that?
Yes, you can delete items. Yes, which is basically tabling also. Let's see. rulemaking is 30 days advance notice, and the rulemaking actually you also have to track the Open Meetings Act as well as the state rules. And the state rules act is very specific. I'm sure you've dealt with it a lot with your rulemaking. Like you have to publish in the New Mexico Register. You have to give the public an opportunity to comment, that kind of thing. Publish in newspapers, publish in the Sunshine Portal, all these requirements. You still do have in your Open Meetings Act that provision number 10, meetings held during the time of state of emergency. I believe probably a prior council put this in to allow you guys to do virtual when we were in the midst of the pandemic. We still are under a public health emergency until February 3rd. And so, it's a good idea to keep this. I don't know whether or not that will be extended or not. But it's great that you're meeting in person again. And one more thing that I want to mention that's not in here, and we can include it if you'd like, is there is a provision in the Open Meetings Act that says that if it's otherwise difficult or impossible for a member to attend in person for whatever reason, illness, something very, important and kind of emergency, that makes somebody unable to attend, your rules allow for telephonic attendance or attendance via Zoom. But we would also need to put that in your Open Meetings Act resolution if you want to keep that.
I recommend you solve it in there because you never know what's going to happen. Especially right now, we barely have a quorum and things like that.
Right. So if you would like to do that, I can make that change for you, and today you can adopt it, the OMA resolution as presented with the amendment that I include that provision to allow for remote attendance when it's difficult or impossible.
Would you please set it for?
Yeah. And then, yes, I stand for any additional questions you may have about the Open Meetings Act. Mm-hmm. I apologize. But I stand for any additional questions you may have.
I have no questions.
No.
Please.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this? I'll make a motion to approve the open meetings resolution with the provision that the remote access be granted in the event of the emergency.
But it's difficult or impossible, right?
Difficult or impossible.
Great.
Okay, now here's second. So move. Second, Smith.
Motion is second.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Yeah.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes.
Move on to C.
Vice Chairman, Honorable Commissioner. Again, at the yearly annual event with FEMA materials, there is a memorandum basically requesting that the commissioners approve providing Executive Director Izzy Trejo with the authority to appoint a hearing officer to hear matters which are appealed to the Commission for the calendar year 2023. And for questions, the Director Trejo.
Any questions? Any motions? I would make that motion.
Any second? Second, Smith.
Got motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hasse Sanchez.
Yep.
Billy Smith.
Yes.
John Buffington.
Yes. Okay, let's go on to D. Appointment of Race Review Committee.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the Commission, the agency respectfully requests the appointment of the Race Review Committee and approval of them. It's dwindled down in numbers, but we certainly like to keep them as an option for race reviews. Sometimes those can be very time consuming. And those gentlemen are Mr. Michael Harbour, who's done a great job in the role of the race review committee member, as well as Mr. Walter Wiggins and Dr. Scott Waterman, all have participated in this role for a handful of years and all have done an outstanding job.
Walt been on it for years. He knows what he's doing. Any questions?
Okay, need a motion? I would make the motion to approve, Mr. Harbour, Mr. Wiggins, Mr. Waterman.
Got to ratify everything. Need a second?
Second, Smith.
Got a motion and a second?
David Hossie Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Going to F, request for approval to amend, commissioners meeting dates.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the commission, the agency staffs are requesting ratification of approval to amend the location of the February 16, 2023 commission meeting, moving from Summerlin Park, New Mexico to here in Albuquerque.
Any questions on it? Okay, need a motion?
I will make that motion.
Second. Second motion, roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. And we move on to, Park.
Mr. Vice Chair, we do have one more some sequence of the vote open for unfinished business, item 8F, if you may. A request for approval to amend commission meeting dates.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the commission, the agency staffs respectfully requesting that we can move the racing commission meeting scheduled for May 18th to another week during May. Pretty important life matters occurring on that day of May 18th that those families should miss it all. So we're just wondering if the commission would consider to move the date to May 11th. May 11th. Yes, and we understand it's a quick turnaround. February meeting somewhat, but we feel staff is capable of doing that.
Any questions?
Please take time to review your calendars. I don't know if you have
Okay, the motion?
Make a motion to move the May meeting to May 11th.
Second, Smith. Motion and second, roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez.
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Now we go to Mr. G. Nothing received, right?
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the commission, Dustin Dix, Director Racing, Summerlin Park. We have the ratification of approval to amend our 2023 racing officials as permitted. I could go through those if you want. These were some late addition officials that we had before the December meeting, and Mr. Trejo approved them, so we're here for ratification. There's John Everly as our assistant racing secretary, Ruben Rivera as our clerk of skill, Barbara Rippey as our placing judge, our inspection veterinarian, I also call him our compliance veterinarian, Dr. Schweitzer, and he does pre-race inspections and TCO2 testing. And outrider Johnny Rodriguez, we're removing Stanley Bush from our approved outrider.
Johnny still singing?
Johnny
Rodriguez, is he still singing? Oh,
I have not heard about it.
yeah, is he young?
One time the other Johnny Rodriguez was rapping. All Vice Chair Sanchez. I'm from Detroit, so if it was Eminem or Kid Rock, I probably would.
Oh, well, we'll leave that. I hear a motion to ratify the approval of raising business at Sunderland. I would make that motion. Second, Smith. Okay, I got a motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Here.
Billy
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez, members of the commission. Southern Park, we're also ratifying approval to run 10 races on January 7th. And this was due to our shoot fly trial having 6 trials, and we filled 10 races on the issue book. So I thought it would just be better to run all 10. So this was a ratification.
Okay. That shoot fly ran, right?
The finals are actually Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yes.
Any motion to ratify? I would make that motion to ratify. Second, Smith. Okay, I got a motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yeah.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes.
Go ahead. Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez. I just want to give a brief update on our race meet, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'll be much briefer than Mr. Linder. So, this is through Sunday, our first 15 race days. We're trying something a little different this year. As everyone knows, we split the breeds out where we're running 2 days of quarter horses, 2 days of thoroughbreds. So what we're seeing handle-wise is our on-track handles up 7.11%, and our off-track's down 21.01%. So kind of what we thought, didn't think it'd be as drastic on the off-track, and I think the big reason the off-track's down so much is the Tuesday cards have been some short fields and things of that nature. Very encouraged about the fans we're seeing. I've seen a lot of new fans this year, so I'm very encouraged with that. And we're still a lot of kind of a mixed bag of what we're doing. A little too early to make any presumptions right now, but I kind of wanted to give you a quick update on our racing through the first 4 weeks. Field size is down slightly across the board. Last year we were averaging 8.31 starters. This year we're at 8.21. Quarter horses are at 9.03 last year. This year they're at 8.66. And thoroughbreds last year were 7.74. This year they're 7.56. So down a little bit on the across the board. So it's kind of a work in progress, and we'll update you again in February. But just wanted to get those numbers out for you guys.
That's pretty much expected. Are you working pretty hard to fill them? In other words, you spend all day trying to fill the card?
You know, I go down to the race office at 8:30. Well, who am I kidding? 9 o'clock. And the entries are really light, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to write a letter for a variance, and then all of a sudden 10:30 we're doing pretty good. It hasn't been as bad as I thought. We're lacking a lot of open horses. What's filling is a lot of the lower level open races, maiden races, and New Mexico breds. This is on the thoroughbred side. And some of the quarter horse races haven't been filling like they used to. Of course, we split a maiden race, I think, 4 ways the other day, so on the quarter horse side. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle, you know, industry wide, but it hasn't been, we've been getting overnights out by 1 o'clock on most days, so it's not as bad as some of the other tracks. And I'm splitting it up this way as well, I think has helped with that as well on the entry side, that everyone kind of knows.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the park.
This Commissioner, this is Chris Mackerlane from Zia Park.
Okay.
We have on our request today ratification of our racing officials from the end of our 2022 meet, which were submitted to the Commission previously and are up for ratification now.
Okay. Motion to ratify the racing officials in 2023. I would make that motion. Second. Second, Smith. Motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, let's move on to J. Approval of summary park.
Last but not least, good morning.
Last.
Last, thank you. I'm used to that. Steve Dunak representing Sunlight Park. Vice Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Buffington, Commissioner Smith, Director Trejo. We're looking to get approval. Sunlight Park respectfully request approval ratification of the amended 2023 stall application. This was for correction of a conflicting submission date we had on that was submitted in November.
Any questions?
I would make that motion to approve.
So moved. Second, Smith. We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
David Hassey Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes.
Okay, move on to, request for approval of commission.
Chair Sanchez, Commissioner Buffington, Commissioner Smith, we're looking to get approval of the 2023 condition book. This will be book 1, 2.
In previous years, you had one book, now you're doing two.
Doing 2 books, we're hoping that the second book we can make some adjustments, hopefully positive, as far as purses and conditions and some favored distances that the person might like. That's our thought, at least we're hoping.
That makes sense. Keep it trying.
We're hoping that we're being a little conservative with the first book and we'll have a little bit more money.
But I'm glad that you actually said it. Yeah. So, appreciate it. Where all are you gonna go distribute these, books, and what are you gonna do for recruitment of horses and trainers and?
Funny you should ask, Commissioner Buffington. I am going on a recruiting trip starting next week. I will be to Arizona, starting with Turf Paradise. I'll also be going to Rito, see if we can hit them. Also, we'll be seeing Sunnyland Park, see if we can get our in-home peeps. I've had contact with Colorado, and their Horsemen's Association is very, very positive that they might be sending us some trainers and some horses. And I've reached out to Oklahoma and Texas, and I've gotten lukewarm from both of them, but perhaps we can pick up some from Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I need a motion. I would make that a motion to. Second. Motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hassey Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Okay, request approval for 2023 condition book.
Vice Chair Sanchez, Commissioners, we, Sunlight Park, respectfully request approval of the 2023 condition book issuance. Which I believe
Any questions? Officials? Anything you want to talk about, John? No. No, sir. Okay, he's our expert.
he tells me that all the time.
Need a motion to approve? I would make that motion. In second? Second, Smith. Got a motion second? Roll call vote?
David Hassey Sanchez,
Yeah.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Okay, I need a number 4, course approval of the first.
Vice Chair Sanchez, Commissioners, Sunlight Park respectfully request approval of the 2023 first distribution chart that you sent. If you like, what we're hoping is conservative. We're expecting 3.7 million in purses. That's estimated. Hopefully that would equate out to about 176,000 in daily purses and 17,000 purses per race estimated. And again, we're hoping that we're being on the conservative side.
I'll go with no. What was your person's last name? Out of curiosity.
Commissioner Smith, it was like 5 million, over 5 million last year. He did very, very well. Primarily, I believe, I wasn't there for the meet itself, but I believe most of it was because the competing casino was down for quite a while. And so we were the beneficiary of that.
The one in Colorado.
You know, the one that's
in Farmington.
about 15 minutes away from us. They were down for quite a bit, and we were the beneficiary of that.
Thank you. More questions? Okay, request of approval. I would make the motion to approve. Second, Smith. We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Okay, request of approval for job and exercise rider insurance.
Vice Chair, Commissioners, Summary Park respectfully request approval of the 2023 jockey and exercise rider insurance payment from the Summary Park Union First account. And we would be asking for the precedent of 95%.
Do they have in here what the price of that?
Yeah, the total amount is $68,497, and we would be seeking 95% of that, which is $65,072.15. And if I may, that's up about 10,000 from last year. They actually did a very flat fee for us, but it went up because of the extra days we have, the 3 extra days.
I would make the motion to approve that. Second, Smith. Got a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. 6, request of approval for 2023 game and breakage.
Vice Chair, Commissioners, Summary Park respectfully requests approval of the 2023 New Mexico Breeders Association Breakers and Breeding document that we submitted. I can tell you that we're going to be offering 11 stakes races this year. We unfortunately felt we needed to eliminate 3 of our open stakes. Again, because we were going to be coming so far down in the first money. And we took those 3 open stakes races that money, put them into the overnights to try to boost up a little bit, in particular at our bottom. And the track will be paying out $590,000 total for stakes. We're after that.
Okay, Vice Chairman of the Commission, I had a conversation with Sunray. Did you ever get to how much money was left over in the Breeders' Fund from last year?
No, Director Trail, we had tried a few times to try to get that amount. We have really no idea what the amount was left over from last year.
Any idea why they wouldn't share with you?
No.
Who's that, the Breeders?
Yes.
Aren't they required to share that with you?
Yeah, we'd sure like them to, but we haven't been able to get that information yet.
Who did you talk to?
We've talked to Mary and also to Gonchon, Mr. Gonchon.
Did they,
Sorry, Mr. Logan.
did they tell you no, or just said who gets it?
I think they both indicated that either they didn't have that amount or they would get it to us, but we haven't received it yet.
How long ago was that?
Yeah. You would follow up with them again.
Yeah, we'd like to know that.
We can
might
start-
have a word with them also.
We can certainly try it again. We tried about 2 or 3 times, but I don't mind trying it again.
Mr. Turtle, can you keep up with that one and let us know?
Absolutely, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, the approval, I would make the motion to approve. Second, Smith, you got a motion and second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on the K. Stephanie Esparza, Desmer Harris. No?
Vice Chair, we've got Erin Lecoq from the Attorney General's office. She's our prosecuting AG.
Good morning, Vice Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Smith, and Commissioner Buffington. Erin Lecoq, Assistant Attorney General, and I am, like Denise said, the Administrative Prosecutor before the Racing Commission. I am here today to present the hearing officer's report for your consideration for Stephanie Esparza and Desmer Harris. I just wanted to point out briefly that this is a little bit of a different type of case. We had a question about sending in a split sample and whether the seal on the sample was broken. The hearing officer did find that the seal that was ostensibly broken on the sample was the sterile seal, and that should not have prevented the trainer from sending in the split sample to the lab of her choice. Ultimately, her decision to not send in the split sample was her decision alone. And as a result, the split sample was not sent in, and there was no rebuttal evidence against the evidence that the state presented that there was oxymorphone in the urine when the horse ran. So we're asking that the commission adopt the hearing officer's report in its entirety.
Any questions from the commission?
Then need a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report. I would make a motion. That Smith, motion second. Roll call vote.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Yes.
Billy Smith,
Yes.
John Buffington,
Yes. Go on to two, it's been, tabled, so.
Are we adjourned?
We're adjourned, buddy. Thank you. Thank you guys for attending.
Recording stopped.